it feels good to get back to class now. Yeah, I'm glad, at least this part of the situation is resolved. Obviously, everything happening in Gaza still is horrible.
Students are back in the classroom at Portland State today after 3 straight days of canceled classes because of this week's protests at PSU. Police were able to clear protesters out of the school's main library yesterday, but they ended up having to do it twice, once in the morning and again in the late afternoon. Thanks for joining us here at noon. I'm Drew Carney. Today, the cleanup begins at Portland State. In addition to the huge mess left behind by protesters inside the school's library, crews are also cleaning graffiti off the outside of the building. KGW's Devin Haskins has been covering this story for us all morning on the PSU campus.
The campus at PSU looks a lot different today than it did just a day ago. Instead of being filled with police and protesters, you have crews trying to clean up the library, getting it back to what it once looked like. Today, campus somewhat back to normal for the first time since Monday. In clear view of students walking to class, the fenced-off library now covered in plywood and graffiti. Yesterday, we saw crews clear away the pile of debris once used as a barrier. Today, that's no more. Inside, we were able to get our first clear view of what was left behind. Walls spray painted with messages and expletives. We saw tables and chairs that once blocked doors, and piles of goods like food and water and first aid supplies. A reminder of what took place will remain closed on campus for days to come. We talked to students about finally getting back to class after what happened this week.
My instrument was locked in Lincoln Hall from Monday up until Friday, so I was locked away from my instrument and couldn't practice, and that's a huge part of what we do is music majors.
It's almost surreal because, just seeing the library all boarded up and everything like the way it is right now, and they're cleaning it. I'm just glad to be, heading to work again.
Police say 30 people were arrested. They said 7 of them were students. We asked PSU if there will be any disciplinary action for them. They said that's still too early to tell. I'm Devin Haskins, KGW News.
One of the most dangerous scenes that played out on Portland State's campus yesterday happened when a car drove at a group of protesters. You can see the white car that was involved on this cell phone video right there in the middle of the screen. So as the car came to a stop there, people said the driver was spraying the crowd with pepper spray. At first, though, some people thought he was holding a gun out the window. A few seconds later, you can see the driver jumps out, runs away, and just abandons his car right there. No one was seriously hurt, but a lot of students say they were hit with that pepper spray. More protests are still happening on other college campuses across the country. NBC News reports that police have arrested more than 2,100 people involved in those pro-Palestinian protests over the past 2 weeks. Yesterday alone, we saw officers in riot gear arresting more than 200 people at the encampment on UCLA's campus. Most schools have struggled to clear those encampments, but demonstrators at the University of Minnesota did reach an agreement with that school yesterday. School officials say the agreement includes talking about ending its relationships with companies connected to Israel and not arresting or charging anyone for protest activities on campus. Of course, we'll continue to cover this story, including the latest from Portland State's campus. Coming up in our newscast later this afternoon and this evening, you can also follow the latest developments at KGW.com and on our KGW News app. Before we check in with Rod in the Weather Center, we do have a quick traffic alert to pass along. You can see the Morrison Bridge from this live look on our Rose City Skycam. Access to the bridge from Southeast Grand Avenue is closed right now because of a semi-truck rollover. You can still get on the bridge, though, it's worth noting, using the ramp from Southeast MLK Jr. Boulevard. But county officials are asking people to avoid that area altogether right now and use one of the other bridges to cross the Willamette. All right, now we will check in with Rodney Hill, standing right there in the Weather Center. What's happening behind you, Rod?
Well, the timeline is on track. With that said, it's really been a delightful morning. And here in Portland, especially from downtown off to the east, we're still enjoying a little bit of sunshine, which is allowing for some warming temps. But you can see all the clouds coming with our rain event that begins later today and continues through tomorrow. In fact, as expected at noon, we do have rain now along the coast. There's Newport, Tillamook, starting to see some rain nearing the Astoria area. There's actually inland rain now starting starting to work towards across Polk County and nearing Salem. Here are there's some raindrops on the lens. That's Yaquina Bay down in Newport, where it's absolutely raining, 53 degrees. Here are the thicker clouds coming in from the west out over the Reserve Vineyards and Golf Club in Aloha. Now notice their temperature with the thicker cloud cover, 59. Downtown Portland, the clouds are increasing. We're about ready to lose our sun, but we've had enough to get up to 64. Big difference there. Futurecast timing real quick still shows rain approaching into the I-5 corridor and perhaps Portland as soon as 2 o'clock. Might be a little bit later than that, but 2 o'clock-ish. It'll be raining at 4 p.m., 58 degrees, raining all night, 55 at 8 o'clock. Mountain snow, 20 inches at Timberline. That's part of the story we'll talk about in my complete forecast coming up.
All right, Rob, we appreciate that. We look forward to checking back in with you here in about 15 minutes. We do want to get to some other local headlines this afternoon. We start with a fire on Portland's east side in the Hazelwood neighborhood that sent one person to the hospital because of smoke inhalation. This fire started just before 8 o'clock last night. We can show you some of the pictures right here. Portland Fire says it spread quickly because thousands of bullets caught fire that caused several explosions. And those explosions forced fire crews to pull back. It wound up taking them over an hour to get control of those flames. The good news is no one was seriously hurt. Investigators are working at this point to figure out how that fire started. A coach at a Portland Orange Theory gym is under investigation after fundraising money was allegedly never sent to charities. An Instagram post from January praised head coach Ryan Tong, saying he helped raise more than $500,000 for charities through gym classes. But at least 11 charities told KGW they never received the money, and some didn't even know classes were being held in their name. Tong at this point is suspended without pay while the company investigates. Police are also investigating. We also have an update for you on a missing child and suspected kidnapping that we talked about earlier this morning on our Sunrise show. Portland police say they have found the 5-year-old boy that was in question here. They found him in Southeast Portland right around 6:45 this morning. He was missing since last night, but police say he's safe at this point. They did confirm, or I should say they did not confirm, if he was actually kidnapped. There's no word yet on any arrests.